My name is Rico Moore. I'm an attorney here in Charleston, and what this is about is the new Second Chance for Employment Act. I was hoping to get, as many felons as I could here. This is absolutely free. I'm not connected with any church, any organization other than me and CT, Minima, myself, Hollis Lewis, another guy by the name of Stuart Frazier. We've got a website, and it's called the Black Light Initiative. And basically what it's about is we don't have a black community in Charleston anymore. So what we're trying to do is put together, something online so that, black people throughout the state in particular can figure out what's going on in different parts of the state and access information that most of us just don't have. Or, I'm not saying we don't have, a lot of us just don't know how to access it. And so with that, one of the things we came up with, and one of the issues we had was, unemployment for felons, in particular in the black community. And the reason it affects us most is we are disproportionately represented in the penitentiaries in the state of West Virginia. We're 3% of the population, but I think we're 28 to 30% of the people incarcerated in the state of West Virginia. And when they do the census, they count the people that are incarcerated in the different federal penitentiaries in the state of West Virginia. So that skews the numbers a little bit. If you actually looked at the numbers without looking at the people incarcerated in the federal penitentiaries, which we have more than just about any other state, I believe. We're definitely in the top 3 for such a small state. If you looked at it without using those numbers and just looked at pure numbers and did it based on, numbers per 100,000 people, it would be like 300 and something white people for 1,100 to 1,200 black people incarcerated. Those, that would be the percentage, somewhere around in there. And it makes no sense because we only represent 3% of the population. So this Second Chance for Employment Act can really help us out a lot if you just do the numbers, because so many of us percentage-wise have felonies because we are disproportionately represented in jail. We have a very, very high disproportionate contact rate with police officers as juveniles. And the majority of us actually, we go to jail first time, First time we get in trouble, we go to jail. That's just it. That's just the way it is. And so it would affect us hugely because that means the employment population in the black community would be down here. Even though, I can't remember the exact rate, but at one point I know we graduated overall at a higher rate than the white population, which generally means that the higher the rate you graduate is, we have a much more employable population. You would think that, but it doesn't seem to work that way here. So with this new law that came about, and it was enacted in 2017, we can now have basically felonies expunged, or reduced in a lot of instances. But there are certain requirements. One of the requirements is your felony, or you can no longer be under the, how can I put this? You can no longer be like, on probation, parole, or any type of paper at all. In other words, they can no longer have any type of jurisdiction over you as far as the judicial system, as far as, outside the courts. You have to be out of jail, off probation or parole. But you have to do that for 10 years. During that 10-year span, you can't have any additional convictions, be that misdemeanor or felony. Once you do that, you apply, and I think it's within 180 days, they'll make a decision whether or not you have to have a hearing or whether or not you're just automatically granted or denied. After that, if you are granted, you've got to do basically another 5 years before they, quote unquote, really grant it. So during that 5-year period, you don't have to report it when you ask for a job or any type of employment application. Right now, you have to say, look, I have a felony, this is what it is. But during that period, you don't have to report it. However, if within that 5-year period after it's granted, you get a misdemeanor or anything else, you're back to being a felon. So in essence, you have to do, all right, we have two types of life sentences in West Virginia. One without mercy, which means you do life forever, and one with mercy. One with mercy means you do 15 years and then you can come up for parole. So in essence, what you have to do now is be out of jail for 10 years. If you get granted, then you do another 5 years. So basically you have to do a life with mercy sentence on the streets before it can be granted. And like I said, back to those numbers I gave you to begin with, it's a problem for us because, you know, one of the biggest things about recidivism, you know, people come home and they go back is when they come home, they can't get a job. So what they're asking you to do is come home, stay clean for 10 years if you can find a job. Then ask them to grant you, you know, an expungement, stay clean another 5 years, and then if you can do that, it can be reduced or expunged. So, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it needs to be changed quite a bit, I think. I brought along these packages, and it'll tell you what the requirements are. And I was hoping to get a lot more people who actually are felons. If you don't mind, everybody who has a felony conviction, would you please raise your hand? All right, so that's great. Now, even if you don't qualify under this statute, I still want you